today's video, we're going to cover 3 things that you need to think about when you've decided that you want to get into trail running. Now, I've already done a video called Your Very First Trail Run, and I'll link to that in the description below. And if you haven't watched that, I'd suggest you watch that first before this video, because if you haven't yet done your first trail run, then you don't need to think about spending at that stage. However, if you have had a go and you've decided it's a hobby you'd like to explore further, then here are the next 3 things you need to think about. You need to think about building up your kit. So now you've decided you want to do more trail running and perhaps go further, then you need to think about shoes, safety and sustenance. So let's cover shoes first. Now, trail shoes do differ from normal running shoes, and that's mainly in the build-up of the sole. You need a really good grip to get out onto some of those trails in different conditions. I wear Asics trail runners, and I'll give you a look at mine now, as you may want to look out for some similar features when you go shopping for yours. I think the main things are whether you would choose to go for waterproof or non-waterproof. Make sure you've got enough room in the toe box for when your feet expand, and also enough room in the length so your toe doesn't hit the front of the shoe. And look at the lacing system, you may have a preference for that. There's quite a few things to have a look at, so let's have a look now. So the Asics Fuji Trabuco Pro. I have just come in from a trail run wearing these. So let's briefly go through the specs. So starting with the upper, it's a nice roomy toe box. The shoe is not waterproof, but I have to say I always choose non-waterproof trail shoes. Most of the trails I go on where I live, there are streams to cross and certainly big puddles, and you know, once the puddle comes over this hole here, then you're going to get wet feet anyway. And what I do find then is if they are waterproof shoes, it takes so long to dry out and my socks are soggy for ages. So I prefer to have non-waterproof, let my feet get wet, and then they'll dry out a lot quicker. It seems to work better for me. There's also the fast lacing system, which you've seen the video on that, so this is great, and I think it will really come into its own in the winter, but when I am running in the rain and the mud, that having this lacing system will come into its own, because there's nothing worse than having frozen fingers and having to deal with soggy, cottony, wet laces. Just yuck. So I think this will be great then. The midsole is Asics Flight Foam, which does make this shoe super light. And moving on to the outsole, we've got the rock protection plate there, and these lugs, Asics say that they have positioned these lugs, some forward facing, some backward facing, to give you the maximum grip whether you're going up or downhill. Now, I've only used these on the dry sort of shaly gravel, and the grip was great. And to be honest, if I'm going to fall over, which I do, it's usually in the dry on those sort of slippery tiny stones that I fall, rather than in the mud anyway. So they work really well for me in that. Now, when it comes to footwear, I'm not going to recommend any specific brand or model to you, because it really is personal preference, and what suits one person might not suit another. It's all about fit and comfort and preference. The next thing we're going to cover is safety. Now, in my first video on your first trail run, I suggested that you stay somewhere local and perhaps went to your local park on some of the gravel trails there. But as you're now ready to explore further, you're going to go to areas that you're not familiar with. It's important that you know where you are all the time. So obviously navigation is going to be important. Now, I use a mix of things. I use View Ranger and Ordnance Survey, use those apps. I also use Komoot, and I will take a map and compass with me. So what I will do is I will plot out my route on one of those apps, and then the night before my run I will match up my paper map to the route on my app and just familiarize myself with it. So if I'm out and about and following the route on my phone and something happens to my phone, I drop it and it doesn't work anymore, then I can grab hold of my paper map and I can quickly recognize the area on my map that I was comparing the night before. So still on the subject of safety, you're going to want to take a first aid kit, and you're going to want to take something to keep you warm and keep you dry. Now, I have done a complete video, which again I'll link to in the description below, which is all about everything I take on a trail run and how I pack it into my vest. So I'm not going to go into great detail here, so head to that video to see everything in more detail. But obviously, to keep warm and dry, you're going to need something like this very, very light down jacket or a thick fleece, and a waterproof. Personally, I like to take a small survival blanket, and you can see that, the one I chose in the video I'm linking to below. That's just in case I get injured or have to be immobile for a period of time and to try and stop me getting too cold. So let's get to our final S, which is sustenance. So you're going to want to take some food and some drink with you. Again, this is all down to personal preference. I've mentioned a few things in the video below I like to take with me. I like to take malt loaf, small sandwiches, jelly babies, little peanut butter bites, just small snacks that I can eat on the run. But of course, it all depends on how long I'm going out for, really. And again, with the drink you choose to take, that again is personal preference. I tend to take some water, and sometimes I'll take an electrolyte mix as well. So now we've gone through some of the extra items that you need to start thinking about next. And of course, now you need something to carry all those items in. My vest of choice is this Ultimate Direction Vesta. It suited me really well. I've been using it for several years now, and let me tell you a bit more about it. I did my research, lots of reviews read, and I decided on this Ultimate Direction vest. Again, I've been really pleased with it. It's super light. So 2 water bottles, 1 in each of these pouches. They are these flexible, squishy bottles, and it's simply a question of pulling up on this as you're running. This elastic here is for your trekking poles. It also has 2 zip pockets on the front, which my phone fits in perfectly, and anything I want to access really easily. And then when you turn it round, it will take a hydration pack in here, a 2-litre hydration pack, but I don't use it for that. I like to, it's like a nice stretchy sack on the back, which holds a surprisingly large amount of stuff. I mean, in here I put my fleece and my buff and everything else I want to take with me. And then beneath the sack there is another zipped pocket here, which I find useful for putting things like some money, a credit card, my car keys and things like that. So you can really make this vest snug to your body with this cinching system at the back, and you'll be able to see in a video how it works. So I've been really pleased with it. So again, as with the footwear, there are lots and lots of different trail running vests out there. So I'm not going to recommend a particular brand. I particularly like this one. It's worked well for me, but they're all pretty similar. I will put a link in the description to one that is really inexpensive, and I have heard good reports of, but I haven't used it myself. So it's not a personal recommendation, but I'll pop it in the description and you can have a look and decide for yourself. So those are our 3 S's. Once you've decided you want to get into trail running, you need to start building up your kit and think about shoes, safety and sustenance. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll get out there and do some more exploring on the trails. It really is absolutely fantastic fun. I love trail running. When I do my next trail running video, I'm going to cover a few areas of technique, the best way to cover these trails, and also how to go uphill and downhill safely.